Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com, here with another Cardsphere video. This one I'm just going to try to explain the numbers and what they mean here on the committed trade price you see on your screen. One of the major problems that I keep hearing from people why they don't join Cardsphere is they don't feel like they get the value of their card. They prefer a PukaTrade type platform where you trade your card that is worth the value that it says on like TCG Mid. And all of that is just an illusion. And here's how I'm going to explain it exactly why this is much better than any of the alternatives that we've ever had, including PukaTrade at its heydays. Now, I've always said that one of the problems with PukaTrade is it never allowed for a bonus, so therefore it never allowed for the market to actually dictate a price on a card because, of course, there's going to be a vastly different market than buying on eBay or TCG Player, because people are like, a lot of these, especially you can see the $0 to $1, those cards are kind of pumped up on TCG Player and on eBay just because of due to fees. It's only worth it to sell them at a certain value, so they kind of bottom out before a person's like, well, I'm not going to sell it for this because I'll lose money on the trade. And so it's arbitrarily inflated to where it should be. And it was really one of the problems with PukaTrade. I made a killing on PukaTrade trading those particular cards around the 50 cent to the dollar mark, just because there was a lot of demand for them based upon that's the only price they could be traded at because of PukaTrade putting that kind of regulation on the market. Couldn't change down or up with bonuses or cuts. So, of course, one of the things that I like most about Cardsphere is the ability to set your own prices. I've spent over $350. You can see my account is drained again. And I've got most of my cards at just barely above what you'd get on TCG Player buy list or a lot of the bigger vendors' buy lists. So I really love the way that Cardsphere is kind of narrowing the gap between buyers and sellers. But let's just get back to what I mean by these trade prices. So here, Heather, that have their committed trade prices in the last 7 days. What do these numbers mean? This means the median trade from the $0 to $1 mark was traded at 57% of the value of the card. And if you go up to 1 to 5, it's 75%. And if you go to 5 to 10, it's 80%. 10 to 25, 81%, 25 to 50, 85%, and then 50 plus is around 80%. And that 50% of the trades fall between this 36 to 81%, and 80% of the trades fall between 21 to 100%. So it's just showing you kind of where the range of these cards are and why you should not be deterred by that. A lot of people, they go on here, I'm like, oh, I can't get a card. I can't send off any cards for 100%. This site sucks. Well, 80% is really 100%. And let me tell you why. Because after fees on like TCG Player or all the other buy lists and things like that, find me one place on the internet right now that you can trade a card for 80% of its value for cash after fees and things like that. That is what makes this site so good, is that you actually can trade a card for 80% of its worth. And this becomes kind of 100% trade value, because I guarantee you, if you put up a want at 80%, it's going to be fulfilled. I did this. I finally needed, I checked out TCG Player and I needed these cards. I needed a Stoneforge Mystic and Sword of War and Peace. And so I upped the percentage of these to around, I think I was still around 20% of the price value, and was able to get them almost immediately when I reset that price, because there are professional sellers like this Doug here. He is one of the high volume traders, and he's using Cardsphere as kind of a cash cow. So it's better for him to trade on Cardsphere and then cash out of Cardsphere or get higher end cards. I don't know exactly what he's trying to do. Rather than trying to go on like TCG Player buy list or even sell on TCG Player or eBay. So it makes sense for him to send off cards and then just do a cash out on Cardsphere than it does to go other methods. And for me, this was about $3 cheaper than I could get this on TCG Player Low, and this one was about $2 cheaper than I could get it on TCG Player. So the lowest offer, the lowest near mint offer, even lightly played offer, I was able to get this for a lot cheaper on Cardsphere. So it's a win-win for both of us. And you got to think of the trade value. 80% is the 100%. This is you will find cards to send off at 80%, because like it says, that's the median trade, and you will find cards to be traded to you at 80% almost instantaneously. So if you come, I go over here, I've got some sends up. Like you can see burnish harsh for 89%, disallow for 75%, training grounds for 71%, misty rainforest 82%. You'll see these all day long around this mark, and that's the full value of these type of trades, and they do get fulfilled. I think if you really want a misty rainforest, like I'm not willing to send it off at 82%. If someone were to put up to 90 or 95%, I'll trade off because it's a high demand card. But for the majority of cards, if you have them at 80%, they will be fulfilled immediately. In fact, I don't think I have anything on my wants at that particular mark that have not been fulfilled. So I have one at 75%. No one's, this was a recent addition, but if you go clear down, all of mine that I've had around that negative 20%, negative 25% have been fulfilled. Here's some mine modals that are very low. Oh, I've got a cap on them. Never mind, I've got a cap on 50%, 50 cents. But you can see that everything else that I had at that 20% mark or 25% or even 30% mark, the vast majority of them were fulfilled pretty quickly. So I would say that this system is 100% working, and people are just deterred just by just because it's kind of an illusion. It's kind of I don't think Cardsphere's really explaining that quite. Maybe I'll have to talk to them again, and maybe they can put out. I don't keep up with their blogs a lot, or I follow them on Twitter, but rarely read the Reddit. But this is, I think that they don't do a good job explaining this to the more casual crowd that doesn't like to get the nitty gritty and kind of dissect how things work. But let me just compare this to PukaTrade. I believe PukaTrade is $4.5 dollars per. You'd have to trade $4.5 worth of PukaTrade cards to get a ticket on MTGO. And so that is what? Less than 20% of the value. So you're literally trading, if you're still using PukaTrade, because they back this up by cash. And that's what makes this so lucrative, or actually so much better than PukaTrade monopoly money compared to Cardsphere's real world money is night and day. So if you were to try to cash out of PukaTrade, you are only getting about 20% for your card value. That is horrible, because the way you cash out on PukaTrade is you trade them for tickets, and then from tickets you have to sell them to like MTGO traders or like card hoarder or some other, or find someone on PayPal to actually pay for your tickets, and usually get about 0.93% on the dollar for MTGO tickets. Sometimes I've had up to 95. I think there was one point that you could actually get more than $1 per ticket when there was a lot of tax on the European market. So a lot of people were like going around that by actually paying more for a ticket. But the general rule of thumb is you usually get between 91 cents and 93 cents per ticket on MTGO. So you're even getting a tax that is very similar to Cardsphere's cash out fee, and much easier of a transaction just to use a Cardsphere cash out fee. So if this is something that I've had personal emails, people tell me there's no way they're using Cardsphere because of this. If this is deterring you, you got to think of this as the 80% as the baseline for the trade. So anything you get over 80% is really like a bonus. People are paying more than the real world value. So this is what the market has dictated. And again, it applies just because this is what a competitive rate would be if you were looking elsewhere to sell your cards like eBay or TCG. You'll get about 80% of the value of the card by the time that everything is all the fees and everything else have occurred. So highly suggest that you use Cardsphere. One of the things we do need is more buyers, I would say. They're still working on some things for Cardsphere to make it easier to send. All three of the founders of Cardsphere did not use the browse feature. I almost exclusively use the browse feature on PukaTrade. Like I would browse people's profiles, I'd browse cards, and then send cards based upon that. So if I found like a good trade right there. So I keep talking to Cardsphere. I think that they should put like a deals like on their front page, like, oh, this person's offering like 115%. Or popular, like their hot cards. These should be clickable for sure. Like there's still problems with the site, but all the founders of the site, they were never professionals with building websites and things like that. They are really learning how to do this on the go. And so far they've done a phenomenal job. They've been extremely transparent with everything. They've refused to cave to any sort of traditional like social media marketing by giving out like free points and things like that, which is very admirable on their part. I think that personally they could if they front. I mean, it's basically they're not giving out free points. Even if they were to give out points, they're backing those. So it's a lot different for what PukaTrade was doing, but they still even refuse to do that just to avoid being compared to that train wreck of what PukaTrade ended up being. So huge shout out to them. Just if Cardsphere's watching, that's a few things that I think you should do. It's kind of sad you don't have a site search. You can still use Google. So you go to google.com and then do, what is the function? Search colon, and then type in the website and then type in a card. Is that how you do it? Anyway, that's how I've been doing it with Cardsphere. I've actually made like a little bookmark, a little link, and then it automatically would search their site. But a site search so it'd pull up cards would be great. And just a little bit, I think that once Cardsphere learns of easier ways to explore, more trades will happen. If they can just find putting together the buy and the seller, because personally, I don't like to, like, this is how they do it right now, is they do it by packaging, and you can kind of set these parameters to try to find trades. And like, I don't like to put my entire inventory on PukaTrade or on Cardsphere because it just causes problems, because since I sell cards in other venues, I don't want to like have a lot of different databases on different places. And then I like to say, oh, wow, I've got a stack of these cards I want to get rid of, type in the card, try to find the trades, and then go from there. For me, that just personally works better. I understand a lot of people love this whole packaging thing if they're, ready to get rid of a ton of cards. But for me, that's just not, it's just not as easy as just finding specific cards I want to get out of. But anyway, yeah, I can't say anything but praises toward Cardsphere. You can see some of the prices that I've got into some of these cards. Like, it's been much better than trying to buy cards on TCG Player, which I have speculated in the past. I do like TCG Player's new buy list function. It's a nice way to get store credit or even cash from TCG Player. Very convenient. But I still would prefer to do this from player to player rather than company to company, as that I think that is better at creating like a community or a sense of community. And eventually I think the Cardsphere will actually have a less gap between TCG Player's buy list and sell list between the Cardsphere buy trade value. So again, 80% is 100%. That's what I want you to take from this video, and that is because there are professional sellers on here that are willing to fulfill those at anything above 80%. It's going to be fulfilled immediately, and therefore it is going to make that the new baseline. And anyone has any more questions or concerns about Cardsphere? Like, I'm not their spokesperson. The only what's the expression? I still have my sinus infection and on medication, and it's hard to like put sentences together. But anyway, I have no like skin in the game here. They aren't paying me. They aren't sponsoring me. They aren't doing anything for me. In fact, the only reason I want more people to join Cardsphere is to mean there's more people to send me cards and more people for me to send cards to. And so literally in that definition, I am just trying to do this for the community aspect of the Cardsphere. So yeah, let me know what are some other things there's TCG Player buy list. There are buy listing to places like, Card Kingdom has been giving out insane. Abu Games and Card Kingdom, sometimes the spread on those are insane, but I don't like to go through companies, like buy listing through companies, just because it takes forever. Whereas Cardsphere is a lot quicker. But anyway, what are other ways that you personally use MTG Finance? Like, where do you sell out? In the past, I've only done TCG Player and eBay and GPs. That's how I've done that. And Cardsphere is a huge game changer. Right now, I've been using it as a buy list. Like, I've been using it to get cards. I think I've only sent off like one trade. I know Zach sent off some other trades, but because this is still a buyer's market, I would say, for Cardsphere. And it's because there's a lot of other people that are just a lot better they're willing to take a lesser cut than I am at the moment. But anyway, anything in the comment section would be greatly appreciated. What's been your experience with Cardsphere? Any tricks or tips? I want to do a tutorial on where I've received cards, but man, I just think that every time I do a video, people just come in and compete with me. You guys are the worst. Like, of course, when I do a Market Monday video, people will then spec into the similar cards that I spec into, and then they outbid me. You guys are jerks. At least you could just match me rather than outbid me on cards, but whatever. Anyway, I've enjoyed this so far, and again, I'll get back to brewing decks as soon as I can actually put a coherent sentence together. and be able to keep the flow with it. But sneezing and coughing in between game has been terrible. So anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.